Dr. Lisa Grant pulled her thick jacket tighter as the cold ocean wind hit her face. She stood on the deck of the research ship Deep Explorer, watching the dark blue water stretch endlessly in all directions. They were in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, floating above the deepest part of the sea, called the Mariana Trench. Lisa had been a marine biologist for 15 years. She studied fish and other sea creatures that lived in the deepest parts of the ocean. Today was supposed to be a normal research day, but something felt different. The ocean seemed too quiet, too still. "Ready to start the sonar scan, Dr. Grant?" asked Kevin Shaw, her research partner. Kevin was a tall man with gray hair who had worked with Lisa for many years. He operated the special machines that could see deep underwater using sound waves. "Yes, let's begin," Lisa said. She walked over to the computer screens that showed what was happening far below their ship. The sonar machine sent out sound waves that traveled down through the water and bounced back when they hit something solid. Kevin pressed a few buttons, and the machine started working. Green lines appeared on the screen, showing the ocean floor thousands of feet below them. At first, everything looked normal. The bottom of the sea was covered with mud and rocks, just like they expected. But then something strange appeared on the screen. "Wait," Lisa said, pointing at the monitor. "What is that?" Kevin leaned closer to look. There were large shapes on the ocean floor that didn't look natural. They were too straight, too perfect to be rocks or hills. The shapes were long and thin, like giant metal bars lying on the sea bottom. "That's weird," Kevin said. "Those look like they were made by someone." Lisa felt her heart beat faster. In all her years of ocean research, she had never seen anything like this. The shapes were huge, each one longer than 3 football fields. And there weren't just one or two of them. The sonar showed dozens of these strange objects scattered across the seafloor. "Let's get a better look," Lisa said. "Can you make the image clearer?" Kevin worked on the computer, adjusting the sonar settings. Slowly, the picture became sharper. What they saw made both scientists gasp in surprise. The objects weren't natural formations at all. They looked like ships, but unlike any ships that humans had ever built. These vessels had smooth, curved sides that came to sharp points at both ends. They were covered in what looked like sea plants and mud from sitting on the ocean floor for a very long time. "How is this possible?" Kevin whispered. "Who could have built ships this big?" Lisa couldn't answer. Each ship was massive, much larger than any warship in the modern Navy. And as they continued the sonar scan, they found more and more of them. The ships seemed to go on forever, stretching out across the ocean floor as far as their equipment could detect. Captain Roy Bennett, the man in charge of their research ship, came over to see what they had found. Roy was a former Navy officer who now worked for the research company. He had short brown hair and serious eyes that had seen many things during his military service. "What's got you two so excited?" Roy asked, looking at the computer screens. Lisa pointed to the sonar images. "Look at these shapes on the ocean floor. They're not natural. Someone built these things." Roy studied the screen carefully. His face went pale as he realized what he was looking at. "Those are warships," he said quietly. "But they're bigger than any ship I've ever seen. And look how many there are." The 3 of them watched as the sonar continued to map the area. With each passing minute, they discovered more ships. The vessels were arranged in neat rows, like a military formation. It looked like an entire fleet had somehow ended up on the bottom of the ocean. "We need to tell someone about this," Roy said. "This is too big for just us to handle." Lisa nodded. "But who would believe us? And what if these ships belong to some country's secret navy?" "That's not possible," Kevin said. "No country on Earth has technology to build ships like these. Look at the design. It's completely different from anything humans have ever made. As they continued scanning, the true size of the discovery became clear. The ships weren't just in one small area. They stretched across hundreds of miles of ocean floor. Some were small, about the size of modern destroyers. Others were enormous, bigger than aircraft carriers. The strangest thing was how well preserved they looked. Even though they were covered in ocean growth, the ship's basic shape was still perfect. It was as if they had been designed to last forever underwater. "I'm calling this into headquarters," Roy said. "This is way above our pay grade." Lisa felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They had made the discovery of a lifetime, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they had also found something dangerous. Who had built these ships? Where had they come from? And most importantly, why were they hidden at the bottom of the ocean? As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the water, the deep explorer continued its scan. With each new image that appeared on their screens, it became clear that they had stumbled upon something that would change everything humanity thought they knew about their planet. The ocean, which had always seemed empty and peaceful, was hiding secrets that were bigger than anyone could have imagined. 3 days after the discovery, Lisa Grant found herself in a room full of people she had never met before. The meeting was taking place in a secret government building in Washington, D.C. She felt nervous as she looked around at all the military officers and scientists who had been called in to hear about what she and Kevin had found. Admiral Susan Clark sat at the head of the long table. She was a strong woman with short blonde hair and sharp blue eyes. Susan had been in the Navy for over 20 years and was known for being very smart and tough. She listened carefully as Lisa explained what they had discovered in the deep ocean. "So, you're telling me there are unknown ships on the ocean floor," Susan said when Lisa finished her report. "And these ships are bigger than anything we've ever built." "Yes, ma'am," Lisa replied. "We counted at least 1,000 ships in just the area we scanned. But we think there might be many more." Colonel Jake Morrison, a military engineer with dark hair and thick glasses, leaned forward. "Have you been able to determine how old these ships are?" Kevin answered this time. "Based on the amount of sea growth covering them, we estimate they've been underwater for at least several hundred years." "Maybe longer," Susan frowned. "That's impossible. No civilization on Earth had the technology to build ships like that hundreds of years ago." Dr. Amy Foster, a language expert who had been brought in from the university, spoke up. "Maybe they're not from Earth." The room went quiet. Everyone stared at Amy, a young woman with red hair who studied ancient languages and symbols. "What do?" "You mean?" Susan asked. "Well," Amy said, "if no human civilization could have built these ships, then maybe they were built by someone else." Colonel Morrison shook his head. "You're talking about aliens." "That's science fiction." "Is it?" Amy replied. "We have ships on our ocean floor that we can't explain. Ships that are more advanced than anything we can build even today." "What other explanation is there?" Susan held up her hand to stop the argument. "Let's focus on facts, not theories. Dr. Carter, what can you tell us about the materials these ships are made from?" Dr. Paul Carter was a physicist who studied different types of metals and materials. He was a quiet man with a beard who rarely spoke unless he had something important to say. "We've analyzed the sonar data," Paul said. "The ships appear to be made from materials we don't recognize. The metal reflects sound waves in a way that suggests it's much harder and more durable than steel or titanium." "Could it be some kind of new alloy?" Susan asked. "It's possible," Paul replied. "But if it is, it's technology that's far beyond what we currently have." Susan stood up and walked to a large map on the wall. "Here's what we're going to do. I'm putting together a special task force to investigate this discovery. We need to know everything about these ships, what they're made of, who built them, and why they're on our ocean floor. She pointed to different locations on the map. We're going to expand the search to other oceans. If there are ships in the Pacific, there might be ships in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, too. Lisa felt excited, but also worried. Admiral, what if we're not supposed to find these ships? What if disturbing them is dangerous? That's a risk we have to take, Susan replied. These ships are in our territorial waters. We need to understand what they are and whether they pose a threat to our national security. Over the next 2 weeks, the task force worked around the clock. More research. Ships were sent to different parts of the world's oceans. The results were shocking. Every ocean on Earth had these mysterious ships hidden on the sea floor. Colonel Morrison coordinated the use of advanced underwater robots to get closer looks at the ships. The robots had cameras and special tools that could take samples of the metal hulls. The ships are in perfect formation, Jake reported during one of their daily meetings. They're arranged like a military fleet, ready for battle. Amy had been studying photographs of symbols found on the ship's hulls. I found writing on some of the ships, she said, but it's unlike any language I've ever seen. The symbols seem to combine elements from many different human languages, but in ways that don't make sense. What do you mean? Susan asked. Amy showed them pictures on her computer. Look at these markings. Some symbols look like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. Others look like Chinese characters, and some look like they might be from languages that don't exist anymore. Dr. Carter had been analyzing the metal samples brought up by the robots. The material is definitely artificial, he reported, but it has properties that we can't replicate with our current technology. It seems to repair itself when damaged, and it doesn't rust or decay even after being underwater for centuries. Self-repairing. Metal? Susan said. That's impossible. I thought so too, Paul replied. But the evidence is clear. When our robots scraped small pieces off the hull, the scratches healed themselves within hours. Tim Rodriguez, an engineer who operated the underwater robots, had been studying the ship's design. These aren't just warships, he said. Some of them look like they were built for long space voyages. They have features that suggest they were designed to travel between planets. Maria Lopez, who specialized in communications and electronics, had been monitoring the area for any electronic signals. The strange thing is, she said, our equipment keeps picking up very faint energy readings from the ships. It's like they're not completely dead. Something inside them is still working. Susan felt a chill run down her spine. You mean these ships might still be active? Not active exactly, Maria replied, but something is definitely generating small amounts of power inside them. As the investigation continued, the task force realized they were dealing with something far bigger than anyone had imagined. The ships weren't just scattered randomly on the ocean floor. They were positioned strategically around the entire planet, as if they were guarding Earth from something. It looks like they're forming a defensive perimeter around our planet, Colonel Morrison said during one meeting. But defending against what? Susan looked at the maps showing ship positions around the world. I don't know, she said, but I have a feeling we're about to find out. The room fell silent as everyone realized that their investigation had raised more questions than it had answered. Who had built these ships? Why were they hidden in Earth's oceans? And most importantly, what were they waiting for? Tim Rodriguez checked his diving equipment one more time before climbing into the small submarine. It had been 3 months since the discovery of the mysterious ships, and today he was going deeper than anyone had gone before. His job was to get close enough to actually touch one of the ships and install monitoring equipment on its hull. Are you sure about this, Tim? Asked Lisa Grant through the radio. She was watching from the research ship above, feeling nervous about sending someone so close to the unknown vessels. "I'll be fine," Tim replied, though his voice sounded a little shaky. "The submarine can handle the pressure down there, and the ships haven't shown any signs of activity for months." Tim was a skilled engineer who had worked on underwater projects for 10 years. He was brave, but even he felt scared as his submarine descended toward the ocean floor. The water around him grew darker and colder with each passing minute dot as he reached the bottom. Tim turned on his submarine's powerful lights. What he saw took his breath away. The ships were even more impressive. Up close, they were massive, sleek vessels that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie rather than on Earth's ocean floor. "I can see the target ship," Tim reported through his radio, moving in to attach the monitoring equipment. The ship he was approaching was one of the smaller vessels, but it was still larger than any warship in the modern Navy. Its hull was covered in sea plants and coral that had grown over many years. But underneath, Tim could see the smooth metal surface. He carefully maneuvered his submarine next to the ship's hull. Using the submarine's mechanical arms, he began to attach small electronic devices that would monitor the ship for any changes in temperature, electrical activity, or movement. "First monitor is attached," Tim reported, moving to the second location. As he worked, Tim noticed something strange about the ship's surface. The metal seemed to shimmer slightly, as if there was energy moving just beneath it. He had seen the photographs and video from previous missions, but being this close made him realize how alien these ships really looked. "Tim," came Kevin Shaw's voice through the radio, "we're picking up some unusual readings on our instruments. Are you doing anything different down there?" "No, just attaching the monitors like planned," Tim replied. "Why? What kind of readings?" "It looks like electromagnetic activity," Kevin said. "It's very faint, but it seems to be coming from the ship you're working on." Tim felt his heart start to beat faster. Should I stop what I'm doing? Before anyone could answer, something unexpected happened. As Tim attached the third monitoring device, it accidentally scraped against a small panel on the ship's hull. The panel, which had been hidden under sea growth, suddenly started to glow with a soft blue light. "What the hell?" Tim whispered, staring at the glowing panel. "Tim, what's happening down there?" Lisa's voice crackled through the radio. "One of the panels just lit up," Tim said, his voice full of worry. "I think I accidentally activated something." The blue light began to spread across the ship's hull, creating patterns that looked like glowing veins. Within seconds, the entire ship was covered in pulsing blue light that was visible even through the thick layer of sea plants and coral. "Get out of there, Tim." Admiral Susan Clark's voice came through the radio. She had been monitoring the dive from the command center. "Return to the surface immediately." Tim started to move his submarine away from the ship, but then something even more frightening happened. A beam of bright blue light shot out from the ship and scanned his submarine from top to bottom. The light was so bright that Tim had to close his eyes to avoid being blinded. "The ship is scanning me," Tim shouted into his radio. "The light is everywhere." On the research ship above, every computer screen and monitoring device started showing wild readings. Maria Lopez, who was monitoring all electronic equipment, watched in amazement as her instruments detected massive amounts of energy coming from the ocean floor. "The electromagnetic activity just increased by 1,000%, Maria reported. "Whatever Tim triggered, it's spreading to other ships." Dr. Carter, who was monitoring the sonar equipment, saw something that made him go pale. "Admiral, we have a problem. The other ships in the area are starting to show the same energy readings." On the sonar screens, they could see dozens of ships, beginning to glow with the same blue light. The energy was spreading from ship to ship like a chain reaction across the ocean floor. Tim managed to get his submarine away from the ship and started heading back to the surface. But as he rose through the water, he could see the glow from the ships growing brighter and brighter below him. "I'm heading up," Tim reported. "But something big is happening down there. The whole ocean floor is lighting up." When Tim's submarine finally reached the surface and was pulled onto the research ship, everyone gathered around to hear what he had experienced. Tim was shaking as he climbed out of the submarine. "It was like the ship was alive," he said. "When that panel lit up, I could feel the whole vessel humming with power." Admiral Clark was on the phone with her headquarters, reporting what had happened. "Yes, sir, we may have accidentally activated some kind of defense system," she said. Into the phone got Dr. Foster. The language expert was studying the patterns of light that were still visible from the surface. "The light patterns look like they might be some kind of communication system," she said. "Like the ships are talking to each other." Over the next few hours, the situation became even more alarming. Research ships and military vessels around. The world started reporting the same phenomenon. Ships that had been dark and silent for centuries were suddenly coming to life with the same blue glow. Colonel Morrison coordinated reports from different locations. "It's happening everywhere," he told the team. "Pacific, Atlantic, Indian Ocean. Every hidden ship we've found is now showing signs of activity." Maria Lopez continued to monitor the electromagnetic signals coming from the ships. "The signals are getting stronger," she reported. "And they're becoming more organized, like they're following some kind of pattern." Dr. Carter studied the energy readings with growing concern. "The amount of power these ships are generating is incredible," he said. "If they're weapons, they could be more dangerous than any nuclear weapon we've ever built." As night fell, the situation became even more dramatic. From the surface of the ocean, the team could see a faint blue glow coming from far below. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "What have we done?" Lisa whispered, staring at the glowing water. Kevin put his hand on her shoulder. "We found them," he said, "but I think they were always meant to be found." Admiral Clark finished her phone call and gathered the team around her. "I've just spoken with the Pentagon," she said. "This is now classified as a global security event. We need to be prepared for anything." As if responding to her words, the ocean around their ship began to bubble and churn. Something was moving beneath the surface, something very large. "Admiral," Tim said, pointing at the water, "I think they're coming up." The blue glow was getting brighter, and the water was becoming more disturbed. Whatever Tim had accidentally awakened was no longer content to stay hidden on the ocean floor. The age of secrets was ending, and humanity was about to meet whoever had been living in their oceans all along. The first ship broke through the surface of the ocean like a giant whale coming up for air. Water poured off its massive hull as it rose higher and higher, revealing its true size. Lisa Grant stood on the deck of the research ship, watching in amazement and terror as the alien vessel emerged from the depths. The ship was beautiful in a way that no human warship had ever been. Its hull curved and flowed like it had been grown rather than built. Strange blue lights pulsed along its surface, in patterns that seemed almost alive. Seaweed and coral fell away from its sides as it continued to rise, showing the perfect metal underneath. "It's huge," whispered Kevin Shaw, standing next to Lisa. The ship was at least twice the size of the largest aircraft carrier, but it moved through the water with impossible grace. Captain Helen Ward commanded the USS Defiance, a destroyer that had been sent to help with the investigation. She watched the alien ship through her binoculars, her finger hovering near the alarm button that would alert her crew to prepare for battle. "All stations, this is the captain," Helen announced over her ship's communication system. "We have an unknown vessel surfacing. All hands to battle stations, but do not fire unless fired upon." The alien ship came to rest on the surface, about half a mile away from the research vessel. For several minutes, nothing happened. The two groups of humans stared at the mysterious ship, and the ship seemed to stare back at them. "Are they going? To attack?" asked Tim Rodriguez, who was still shaky from his underwater encounter. "I don't think so," said Admiral Clark. "If they wanted to attack, they probably would have done it already." Dr. Foster had been watching the light patterns on the alien ship through a telescope. "The lights are changing," she reported. "They're forming different patterns now, almost like they're trying to communicate." Maria Lopez was monitoring all radio frequencies for any signals from the ship. Suddenly, her equipment started picking up something strange. "I'm getting a signal," Maria announced. "It's not radio waves exactly, but it's definitely some kind of communication attempt." The signal was unlike anything they had ever heard. It was a mixture of sounds, some like music, some like voices speaking in an unknown language, and some like electronic beeps and clicks. "Can you make any sense of it?" Admiral Clark asked Dr. Foster. Amy Foster listened carefully to the recording. Maria had made. "It's complicated," she said, "but I think they're trying to speak to us in multiple languages at once. I can hear pieces of English, Chinese, Spanish, and several other languages mixed together." Over the next hour, more ships began to surface around the world. News reports showed identical vessels rising from the ocean near Japan, Australia, Europe, and both coasts of America. Every major news channel was broadcasting live footage of the massive ships emerging from the depths. The world watched in shock as dozens, then hundreds of ships appeared on the surface. Each one was slightly different, but all shared the same flowing, organic design and the same pulsing blue lights. Dr. Foster worked frantically to decode the signals coming from the ships. She had brought her most advanced computer programs for translating unknown languages, and slowly she began to make progress. "I think I'm getting somewhere," Amy announced after several hours of work. "The signal contains mathematical sequences. That seemed to be some kind of universal language. They're trying to show us they're intelligent. Can you send a signal back?" Admiral Clark asked. "I can try," Amy replied. She programmed her computers to send a simple mathematical sequence back. To the alien ship, the first 10 prime numbers. The response was immediate. The lights on the alien ship pulsed in a pattern that clearly showed they had received and understood the message. Then they sent back a more complex mathematical sequence. They understood. Amy said excitedly, "We're actually communicating with them." Over the next few hours, the communication became more sophisticated. The aliens began sending images along with their mathematical messages. The first image shocked everyone who saw it. It showed Earth, but not the Earth they knew. This Earth had no ice caps and different shaped continents. The oceans were smaller, and there were large cities visible on the land masses. "This is Earth," Dr. Carter said, studying the image. "But from a very long time ago, maybe millions of years ago." The next image showed the same planet, but with changes. The ice caps were growing, the continents were shifting, and the cities were being covered by rising seas. "They're showing us a history of our planet," Lisa realized. But why? The answer came with the next series of images. They showed human-like figures, but taller and more elegant than modern humans. These beings were building the ships that now surrounded them. They were preparing for something. Dr. Foster had been working to improve the translation of their language. Slowly, words and phrases began to make sense. "We... are. Home," she translated from one of their messages. "We... wait... for... surface. Brothers... to... grow. Surface brothers?" Admiral Clark repeated, "They're talking about us." More messages followed, and the story they told was incredible. The beings in the ships called themselves the Ascended. They were humans, but humans who had evolved and advanced far beyond what people on the surface had achieved. Long ago, when the Earth went through a great disaster that froze much of the planet, some humans had fled to the oceans. They built cities under the sea and developed technology that allowed them to live underwater for thousands of years. They had been watching the surface humans develop and grow. The ships were not weapons of war against Earth's people, but guardians protecting the planet from dangers that came from space. Protect ... from ... sky. Hunters was one message that Dr. Foster translated. Big ... threat comes ... soon. Captain Ward had been listening to the translations with growing amazement. They're saying they're here to protect us? That's what it sounds like, Amy replied. But protect us from what? The answer came in the form of new images. They showed spacecraft approaching Earth from deep space. These ships looked nothing like the graceful vessels of the Ascended. They were dark, angular, and clearly built for destruction. Sky hunters. Amy translated the text that came with the images. They ... worlds ... for ... resources. They ... come ... resources. They ... Earth ... that I chose. Admiral Clark felt her blood run cold. Are they saying we're about to be invaded by aliens? The next message confirmed her worst fears. The images showed a timeline. The hostile alien fleet would reach Earth in less than 2 years, but there was hope in the message too. The Ascended had been preparing for this threat for thousands of years. Their million ships were not just hidden beneath the oceans. They were a defense fleet waiting for the right time to reveal themselves. Now ... for ... surface. ... humans. ... Everyth. ... and ... work. Together came the final message of the day. As the sun set, the alien ship began to move closer to the research vessel. A smaller craft detached from its hull and approached. The human ships. They want to meet face to face, Dr. Foster announced. Admiral Clark took a deep breath. Then let's meet our underwater cousins, she said. The small craft came alongside the research ship, and a ramp extended from its side. 3 figures walked out, and for the first time in thousands of years, the 2 branches of humanity stood face to face. The Ascended looked almost human, but taller and more graceful. Their skin had a slight blue tint from living underwater, and their eyes were larger, adapted for seeing in the dark depths of the ocean. The leader of the group stepped forward and spoke in perfect English. "Hello, surface brothers and sisters," he said with a slight smile. "We have been waiting a very long time to meet you. My name is Marcus, and we have much to discuss." The age of humanity standing alone in the universe was over, but the age of humanity standing together against the darkness was just beginning. Commander Lisa Bennett sat in the meeting room aboard the Ascended ship, still amazed by everything she had seen in the past week. The ship's interior was unlike anything built by surface humans. The walls seemed to glow with their own soft light, and everything was curved and flowing, as if the entire vessel had been grown rather than constructed. Marcus, the leader of the Ascended delegation, stood at the front of the room addressing a group of military leaders and scientists from around the world. He was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Despite his alien appearance, his voice was warm and human. Your surface world has developed faster than we expected, Marcus said. In just the past 100 years, you have gone from horse-drawn carriages to space travel. This gives us hope that together we can face what is coming. Admiral Clark leaned forward. Tell us more about these sky hunters. What exactly are we facing? Marcus touched a panel on the wall, and images appeared in the air above the table. The pictures showed massive black ships with sharp angles and no curves at all. They looked like machines built only for destruction. They call themselves the Harvesters, Marcus explained. They travel from star to star, taking everything valuable from planets and leaving nothing behind. They have destroyed thousands of worlds. Doctor, Carter studied the images carefully. How do you know so much about them? Because we have fought them before, Marcus replied. Long ago, they came to our solar system and attacked Mars. We managed to drive them away, but we knew they would return when they grew stronger. Dr. Foster had been taking notes throughout the meeting. Is that why you built so many ships? Yes, Marcus said. We have spent 3,000 years preparing for their return. Every ship in our fleet has been designed specifically to fight the Harvesters. Kevin Shaw, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, finally spoke up. But why didn't you contact us sooner? Why wait until now? Marcus looked sad as he answered. We tried to contact your ancestors many times, but they always feared us. They thought we were monsters or demons from the sea. We decided it was better to wait until your civilization was ready to accept the truth. Commander Bennett had been thinking about the military implications of what they were learning. How many ships do the Harvesters have? Their main invasion fleet has about 50,000 ships, Marcus answered. But each of their ships is much larger than ours. They rely on size and brute force rather than strategy. And how many ships do we have? Admiral Clark asked. Our underwater fleet has 1,200,000 ships of various sizes, Marcus said. Combined with your surface navies and air forces, we should have enough firepower to defend Earth. Tim Rodriguez, who had been the first to accidentally activate the ascended ships, raised his hand. What about weapons? Do your ships have advanced weapons? Marcus smiled. Our weapons are designed to work both underwater and in space. They use directed energy rather than explosive shells. But we will need to modify some of your surface weapons to be effective against Harvester technology. Over the next several days, representatives from every major country on Earth met with the ascended leaders. The meetings were sometimes difficult, as many world leaders found it hard to accept that there were advanced humans living in their oceans. Captain Ward of the USS Defiance worked closely with ascended military commanders to plan joint training. Exercises. Your ships are incredibly advanced, she told Marcus during one planning session. But our pilots and sailors will need time to learn how to work with your technology. We understand, Marcus replied. We have prepared training programs that can teach your people our systems quickly, but we must move fast. Our long-range sensors show that the Harvester fleet is closer than we thought. Dr. Shaw had been working with ascended scientists to understand their technology. Their ships can repair themselves, he reported to the human team. If a hull gets damaged, the metal actually grows back together. How is that possible? Dr. Carter asked. They use something they call living metal, Kevin explained. It's part machine and part biological organism. The ships are essentially alive. Amy Foster had been learning the ascended language and helping to improve communication between the two groups. They have words for concepts that don't exist in any surface language, she told Lisa. They think about time and space incompletely. Different ways than we do? Maria Lopez was working on integrating human and ascended communication systems. Their technology is compatible with ours, she reported. With some modifications, we should be able to coordinate our fleets during battle. As the weeks passed, the cooperation between surface and underwater humans grew stronger. Ascended engineers helped upgrade human weapons and ships, while human pilots learned to fly advanced underwater craft. The training was intense. Human sailors practiced operating ships that could travel underwater as easily as on the surface. Pilots learned too. Fly craft that could move seamlessly from air to water to space. It's like learning to drive a car, pilot a submarine, and fly a spaceship all at the same time. Tim Rodriguez said after his first training flight in an unfellow, ascended craft, but the most important development was the friendship growing between the two human civilizations. Surface humans learned that the Ascended had preserved many things that had been lost on land: art, music, and knowledge from ancient civilizations. Lisa Grant spent her time learning about Ascended marine biology. They've been protecting Earth's oceans for thousands of years, she told Kevin. They've prevented pollution, overfishing, and climate damage in ways we never knew about. We have always been guardians of this planet, Marcus explained during one of their conversations. But now we must be warriors as well. As the alliance grew stronger, both groups worked together to prepare Earth's defenses. Ascended cities rose from the ocean depths, revealing massive underwater metropolises that had been hidden for millennia. The world watched in amazement as the Yunkai Ascended shared their clean energy technology, their advanced medical knowledge, and their methods for living in harmony with the natural world. But they never forgot why they had revealed themselves. Every day, sensors tracked the approaching harvester fleet. The enemy ships were still months away, but they were definitely coming. On the day that the combined human fleet conducted its first full-scale training exercise, Lisa stood on the deck of an Ascended command ship watching thousands of vessels maneuver in perfect coordination. Surface ships moved alongside underwater craft. Human pilots flew next to Ascended warriors who had been training for this battle their entire lives. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked, standing beside her. Lisa watched as fighters from both civilizations practiced their attack formations. "As ready as we can be," she replied. "For the first time in human history, we're truly united." Marcus nodded. The harvesters have never faced a world where all the inhabitants work together. They are used to conquering divided planets. Earth will be different. As the sun set over the combined fleet, Lisa felt something she had never experienced before. Despite the approaching danger, she felt hope. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they were no longer defenseless. The million hidden warships were no longer hidden. They were ready to defend their home, their planet, and their people. Surface and depth, working together, humanity was ready to show the universe that Earth would not fall without a fight. The real test was coming. But for the first time since the discovery began, Lisa believed they were going to win.